Hello and welcome to the Knock On KCLR and Scoreline.ie's weekly rugby podcast. We're back for season 2. We're back. Tom Crotty is back. James Blanchfield is back. And the other fella from Tullow, Johnny Tobin, will be back as well. He's kept on his toes. He was last season, but he'll be joining us throughout the season as well. Lads, it's great to see you again. That summer flew. For me, it did anyway. Don't know about yourselves.
Absolutely unreal. Yeah. Can't believe we're back.
This is it. We're winter's upon us now, and we're back talking about rugby, lads. Short evenings and damp nights,
and people have to listen to us again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even worse.
Before we get into the nitty gritty of it, Tom, you were president last season. You're out now, is it? What's the current job title description?
I'm just Tom now.
Just Tom. We're back to Tom.
Well, I'm actually, for my sins, I'm actually managing the first, so the J1's about health.
Brilliant.
You just can't walk away. Just things like every club, one thing just drifts into another. So I was out in the pitch all the time, so and I did it before, and the lads just said, "Look, I'll go again." So, but it's nice to be relaxed. Derek Hope is the new club president, Derek is a good old soldier, and he's our director of rugby, so. And he's keeping that role as well. So
great club man as well. I played tag rugby with him years ago and everything.
Yeah. I know Derek's good cracking. Hopefully he'll have a good year too.
Lovely hurling. James Blanchfield, what's the story with yourself?
The story with ourselves is kind of the status quo, Stephen. It's continue on as we were last year. No major reshuffles in Kilkenny in terms of committees and stuff like that. Mick O'Donovan is kind of, how would we say, migrating away from the committee, and Ray Pembroke is coming in instead, but there's going to be a long handover there. And apart from that, it's as we were.
Oh, good stuff. And Tullow, Maurice Logue has stayed on, if I'm not mistaken, for another season. And of course, Sean O'Brien, who's now coaching for Leinster, is around a bit more as well. He's not in London, so we'll keep an eye on what's going to happen with Shawnee. We'll talk about that a little bit later on in the programme as well. But lads, we were kept entertained, I suppose, during the summer. The first of all was the Ireland's tour to New Zealand, and I suppose me and possibly yourselves were looking at it going, sure, we'll try out a couple of young lads, and fingers crossed we might get a win. Who knows what happens? And look what happened. Happy days. Brilliant.
It was class. It was great. I kind of almost felt they were going to get a pumping in the first game. For some reason, I just felt that was going to happen. But after that, I think they were just incredible. They just played some brilliant rugby. I have to hand it to Andy Farrell. He just seems to have reinvented that team. And Peter O'Mahony, in my mind, was the player of the series. Caelan Doris, who there was doubts over about whether he could do it against big teams or not, was epic. Throughout, I think you've got to hand it to Ireland. They came back from New Zealand, they made history, and the one thing is that we've seen Ireland teams before put themselves up on pedestals coming into World Cups. I'm not trying to be negative, but it doesn't matter now. It doesn't matter if you beat New Zealand now and you go to the World Cup in France in 2023 and you end up getting knocked out of the group stages again. They have to back it up now. That's the big thing.
Yeah, and I think the great thing to see, James, as well, was Johnny Sexton's interviews and the lads' interviews afterwards. Like, we beat the All Blacks, but this will be forgotten about in a couple of months. It's all about next year. That was good to see. It goes, there's obviously a lot of talk about that peaking too early, and not patting yourselves too much on the back after beating the All Blacks and keeping your focus on the big picture, which is next year, obviously.
Well, it's probably good. It was probably good that it was a summer tour. It's a summer tour that it happened on. That I hadn't come in and gone from into Six Nations, and then everything's just flying along. And look, we've beaten the All Blacks. I think the way we're playing is he's stuck to his guns. He has a lovely way of playing the game, and I think Andy Farrell's done a wonderful job. His whole team has done a wonderful job. Paul O'Connell, what he did with the pack. Their line out and their scrum was outstanding. I think we've still so much to work on. But we've been there with Leinster, you know, that we've all expected Leinster to win the Heineken Cup last year, and things didn't work out. So we all know that these things can turn on the pinhead. So let's hope that they just keep it up. I thought the thing I enjoyed the most was seeing Kieran Bradley come in at 10. Been saying it for a long time that I could never understand why Leinster didn't give him a go at 10. I mean, I watched him underage coming through. He was an outstanding player at 10, at 18. He played Skerries at 10, at 18 years of age in the AIL, and had a couple of games there. So I couldn't understand why he was changed, and has been same story, has been messed around. It's like how the Tom Daly, this, you know, kind of playing centre, doing this job and that job, but not. He's the same stature as Johnny Sexton. Mightn't have that narkiness that Johnny has because he's a nice guy, but he still is an aggressive player. Does come onto the ball, likes taking the ball flat, likes, you know, he take the ball right to the line. I think I'd love to see him. I think we're floating around too long with the Byrnes, with both the Byrnes.
Agreed.
And Joey Carberry's not a 10. I don't care, but he thinks he's not a 10. I'd say he's a full back at the, you know, he should have been left a full back. I mean, like Munster don't have an out 10 yet either. So I think there's a couple of issues Ireland need to sort out, and I think the biggest thing is getting Johnny's replacement, because if we don't get a replacement, you may forget about World Cups.
Yeah, and what a place to give Kieran a run out as well against the Maori All Blacks. You know, it's not going to be easy, but you learn a lot from it as well. Is there? What am I trying to say? I know the Byrne brothers have been tried at this stage, and we know what Ross can do for Leinster, but obviously he's not in the pecking order for Ireland at this stage. Joey Carberry's in there as well, but is there a sense that there's a bit of a scramble on to get a replacement 10 in there, that they're not 100% convinced about Joey? You know, I know we're still a year out from a World Cup and that, but I don't know. I think are they losing faith in him?
I don't think they are. I think Farrell has faith in Joey Carberry. You know,
Mm-hmm.
he did get game time down in New Zealand, didn't he? So I think I'm convinced that Farrell has faith in him. You know, I think with the game plan that they're building, and Mike Cat, who we were all questioning 18 months ago, has a backline that's really ticking now, and I think Mike Cat's plan, or the way he has them playing rugby, will suit Carberry. He's not a Johnny Sexton, but remember, Manchester United spent 10 years trying to replace Roy Keane. You know, we were trying to look for a like replacement. You're never going to get that. We thought we'd never replace O'Gara. We replaced him with Sexton. You know, golden generation for Irish 10s. You're not going to replace Sexton with a like-for-like replacement. They are going to have their differences, their nuances. But as Tom said, the probably most like-for-like that you have there is probably Frawley. See what happens with Jack Crowley and Munster. He's still very young. You know, I don't think Carty is at that level. I don't think the Byrnes are at the level. I think it is now between Frawley, Freddie Burns, I think, or Harry Burns, whichever the Burns it is. I think we may forget about him. It is Frawley, Carberry, and then maybe you'll see what happens with Jack Crowley over the next season or two.
Crowley's exciting to watch as well. Just it was great to watch him a couple of times last year as well. Just that sort of eagerness with the ball and speed and everything as well. But see, and obviously Munster changed things up as well, so it might offer him an opportunity there. So the All Blacks then, were they just bad, or did we make them look bad, or were they awful?
They were bad. I think they were bad. You look at the tries. And I know I said at the start, I always felt the All Blacks were going to give Ireland a pumping in the first test. But you look at the tries they scored in the first test, they were built off Irish mistakes.
Yeah,
you can't say that the All Blacks were fully convincing with the tries that they scored there. And I think this is why I was saying, coming into the second test, and I had a good chat with Johnny about it one day, but I saw the second test coming, because if you look at the rugby and the patterns of play that Ireland were doing the first day, they broke down. The breakdowns led to some New Zealand tries, or the errors led to some New Zealand tries. But what they were doing in defence, they had New Zealand at 6s and 7s. the second test, they got that bit of detail right, and they had New Zealand all over the place. And I think part of it is New Zealand are bad, but the other part of it is Ireland are excellent. Ireland were just excellent down there. And from the second test and third test, everything they touched turned to gold.
Well, you see, if you're traveling, like if you got to take into account, they're coming off the bat of a long season as well. Players are tired. Then they get on a plane. They have to travel to New Zealand. It's a long way, time difference. Get out, kind of adjust themselves to that time difference. Get your training in. Get your team together. You haven't played in a while. Get your team together, and then you go out and you're facing the All Blacks, at home. And we still crossed the line 5 times. I know the tries were disallowed, but we crossed the line. We crossed that All Blacks line 5 times. Mm-hmm. I mean, before, we wouldn't have got over the line, let alone get over 5 times. I know different things, like they weren't allowed, but it just showed the next day, it gave you confidence to kind of say, hold on a minute, like we had to say, like all the play was there. It was just missing the little bit of accuracies in certain areas and just things. But you could see there was definitely potential, and on the second test, I mean, everything just clicked.
And I think probably the New Zealand media as well are doing a lot hamming it up, because like they're just, they don't care, like they're just ruthless, the media in New Zealand. And they got beaten by Ireland on their home patch for the first time, and they let Foster handle it. And then they went to South Africa for the Tri-Nations or Rugby Championship, whatever it's called today. But they got beaten by the World Cup champions, don't forget, and I think the New Zealand media are probably not being a little bit fair, but as I said at the beginning, if we get to the World Cup next year and all the All Blacks are in the semi-final, all will be forgiven. Ian Foster, you're in the chance of winning the World Cup again, Even if you look at the World Cup draw, it's frightening, because you mightn't have Ireland, New Zealand, like all the good teams are on the same side of the draw here. Someone is going to suffer big time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they got rid of, before they went to South Africa, I mean, they got rid of their backroom team, they got rid of their attack coach, and they got rid of the forwards coach as well. So, I mean, it was very easy to scapegoats to say, right, they're gone. Well, that's the changes we're making. And Joe Schmidt you have to remember, Joe Schmidt is in that system now as well.
Do you think Joe Schmidt, this is something I was thinking about, Joe Schmidt is very rigid and regimental in how he wants his rugby played. Will his method suit the All Blacks? Because the All Blacks love to just play all-out rugby, and will their system, or will the All Blacks method of playing rugby suit Schmidt's rigidness of playing the game, and his game plan and how he wants to play it? Like, I don't know. I think I don't know. I hope I could stand to be corrected, but
they probably needed a bit of discipline into their system. They had it on the second test against South Africa. Not so when the first test was all over the place, but you could see there's a slight difference in the way the team played. They were a little bit more organised, and it wasn't as frantic as the other games. So maybe Joe's point of maybe they brought him in to kind of to get the system started back on track. As defensive system and their attack, and then let them, because they have the players that can do, which it comes natural to them. Every Kiwi has it. They offload naturally. They do. You get the young players. That's what they're doing the whole time. So they will, if there's a gap, or they will. When they've done their moves or done whatever they've got on play, their set moves or their set plays. After that, then once space opens up, they all have those skills. And like Ardy Surveyor was just awesome.
He's unbelievable.
He's on fire, and they have such attacking players. Like they have some of the best players in the world. Like, they're just not coming together. I mean, England had it too. Like England at times have had some of the best team on paper, and were playing crap.
So the referee did nuts up with Ardy Sevilla as well in the second test with the red card. Like, I mean, I read the narrative around it, and apparently Sevilla should have been allowed back onto the pitch. And I think if Sevilla was on the pitch, might have been a little bit different as well.
Yeah.
And the Barretts don't turn into bad rugby players overnight. Like these guys are, like, in my mind, they have the 2 best second rows in the world in Whitelock and Metallic. And when they're on song, the All Blacks play just so much better.
Yeah. And I think Richie Mwanga was awesome on the last test. I like Richie Mwanga. I think he's such an attacking player I know he doesn't have the kicking ability of Bowden as far as, you know, his first thing is not to go to boot, it's to actually run the ball. But maybe that suited the All Blacks better against South Africa in the last test, you know, because they ran the ball from everywhere at them.
That's it.
Well, Ireland, the autumn internationals coming up, so we'll look forward to that as the next bit of international rugby. But we'll talk about the players and staff of the provinces. Plenty of movement. We spoke about it in detail before the summer. So Munster have a new coach and set up, getting, I suppose, into their straps down there and getting set up. Sean O'Brien has taken up a role with Leinster. Dennis Leamy, of course, freed up then to head back to Munster. We'll start with Leinster, our own province. Sean will come in, knows the place very well, the culture and everything as well, but I'd imagine he'd be pretty decent coach as well at the back of it. He's a hard taskmaster.
He is. Tom, you probably know him better than I, and sure, look at his Johnny's not here today, but anything I've ever seen of Sean O'Brien, he's a good operator. He was a good rugby player. He's played in some of the best rugby environments in the world, like with Leinster, Ireland, the Lions, London Irish. Probably the best thing that'll ever happen to him was spend his couple of seasons in London with London Irish, so he gets a different perspective on things and sees differently outside of the Irish system and can bring things back. But I think from an Irish perspective, we're doing such a good job at developing homegrown coaches. I think he will be a success for Leinster. There's no doubt about it. He's achieved everything there is to achieve in the game on a provincial and international level, bar winning the World Cup. So I think you've got to be excited by him coming in.
Yeah, I think as a skills coach, as that skills coach, he's. I think Sean will be very determined in the way he is, and he's also, you know, he's going to give it 110%, as he does with everything that, you know, that he's a good coach. He's you can see him actually. I was coaching the girls in Tullow the other night, and Sean was out giving a hand with the lads, and you know, he was working away with them, and you can just see the way people listen to him, and just, you know, he just has that air about him, and he has that skill, and I think he's himself is particularly good on the breakdown. I think he'll be working on the areas that Leinster are weakest, you know, and especially from a forwards point of view, you know, to stop the likes of what's happened with La Rochelle last year. I think he's a super asset to have back in, just his experience, but just his own. He has that aura about him, you know. It's like having a Paul O'Connell that's brought to the Irish setup, you know, in the pack. Mm-hmm. I think having Sean O'Brien back into the Leinster setup, he's been there, you know, he's been there for so long and been a line, and you know, for the younger players, you know, just even to listen to him and his experience that he has. He has such experience, you know, from playing for Ireland, playing for the Lions, playing for Leinster, you know, winning Heineken Cups. There's just so much experience there.
I know, no airs or graces, no BS.
And he loves to give it back. He loves to give back too. You know,
like, I think it's incredible of a player of Sean O'Brien's stature and a person of Sean O'Brien's stature. And let's be honest, he's a famous guy. It'd be very easy for him to go up to Dublin like other internationals have done and forget about their home club. You know, and there's a lot of internationals there that don't come back to their junior club, and they're great lads, and that's that. Sean O'Brien is first and foremost Tullow, like, you know, then he's Leinster, then he's Ireland, and I think it's remarkable to see, and we'll get onto it later in this, but that you could see Sean O'Brien in a Tullow jersey this coming season.
Well, I tell you, I got some shock on Tuesday night or a Monday night. I was coaching away with the girls, and I saw this figure coming along, and didn't really take any notice of him, and it was Johnny up picking the weeds out of the pitch and spot weeding and putting down weed killer, and I was there going, here's a lad. It just shows you for any young fella, just, I mean, how important clubs can be to people, and this is what clubs are about. And to see as I say, like an ex-international, ex-line out weeding the pitch. When, it's just phenomenal in his local club. As you say, you could have all the airs and graces and be heading off up to Dublin and be with the Lansdowne of this world or whoever else, and but here he is at home having the crack with the lads, and and helping out. It's just look, he's a phenomenal character, absolutely phenomenal character, really,
Absolutely.
Indeed.
Just looking at a couple of players in and out for Leinster. Leinster shipped quite a lot of lads last year through retirement and everything. So out last year, Peter Dooley, Sean Cronin, Devon Toner, Devon Toner, Jack Dunn is gone as well. Josh Murphy, Rory O'Loughlin, David Hawkshaw, Adam Byrne, and Fionn Gibbons is gone to Munster, young centre, and Dan Levy, of course, retired. Which is Jason Jenkins coming up from Munster for the second row. Charles Nagati, coming from Leon, he's a 31-year-old centre, and then you have Sam Prendergast and Dermot Mangan coming in as well from UCD and Lansdowne. 19-year-old.
I think Jason Jenkins is going to be one of the most important signings Leinster have probably made since Brad Thorne. That's the sort of guy they've been missing. It's just that aggressive, raw lump of a tight head second row. That's where they've been,
Yeah, there's always been a
phenomenal player.
Yeah,
Munster didn't get enough out of him, and look, that's Munster's own doing. He was brought in on a short-term 1-year contract. You'd love to see him, and 3/4 of that he was injured. But the bits and pieces I saw of him in Munster last year, he's just what Leinster need.
Yeah.
I think he could be a game changer for Leinster because he's just big and raw and aggressive.
Yeah, we've had the Nathan Hines, the Scott Fardys, the Brad Thorns, and that. Like you said, it fills that gap nicely there as well. And like Leinster don't generally buy bad, if you know what I mean. They usually purchase
not in recent years. Yeah. They've brought some right lemons over many years ago, but not in recent years. Not as many as Munster, mind you. But
yeah, he's got serious potential. I watched him a couple of times. Watched him down below in Thomond Park. He's a big unit. Jeez, I didn't actually realise how big of a unit, but I was actually near the pitch, right beside the pitch when he came out. And he was standing just beside me, going, "Holy God, this guy is actually a monster." I think he's going to be something that Leinster need. I know we have. There's nothing against the phenomenal Irish players that we have there, but you do need that. Every team needs that little bit of impact. I think he's going to solid up that scrum.
Yeah,
online he's a big chap, and he has hands. He plays well. He's good hands as well. So
he'll go in there behind Ty Furlong. They will have some amount of power coming through that tight head side.
Yeah.
He's only 26 as well, which surprised me as well. I forgot. You imagine these lads are a bit older. What do you reckon about Charlie Nagati to do a job in the centre? What's the thinking there from a Leinster point of view?
I don't know.
I think that's just going to be down to the amount of lads that are from all the Irish centres, having Ringrose and Henshaw. You have 2 Irish centres, so there's 2 centres gone.
Tommy O'Brien
gone away from Leinster,
and
you need that bit. I think you need that bit of experience. You can't just keep putting young fellas in.
Yeah.
I think he'll solid. I think he'll solid up. I think he'll solid up that Leinster backline. And give him a little bit more experience when those guys are away.
Absolutely. You've Frawley there that can play 12 as well. And, if you need to mix and match it when the lads are off on international duty as well. Tommy O'Brien plays centre, but yeah.
And you could be up against the South. I don't know. We don't know the fixtures, but I didn't see fixtures. But I mean, you could be playing any of the South African teams in the middle of coming into international time, or just straight after international time. So I think everyone is going to need that little bit of bolster in both in their pack and backs for this season.
This is the year, I think. Now it's year 2 for the South African teams in the URC, and they didn't really start competing in it until maybe the second quarter of it last year. I think you're going to see a big drive from the South African teams this year. You're going to need a lot of depth to take them on.
Yeah, they had a massive buy. I mean, all you had to do was look at the atmosphere that they created towards the end, especially at the end even in the final. Like, look at the crowds that came that weren't coming to matches, and look at the atmosphere that they've created with the music and the fun that they're bringing in. So it looks like the South Africans, the supporters, are buying into the URC.
That's it. And just on Leinster, don't forget they're in Foulkstown tomorrow from 10:30 to 12:30 training, an open training session. Just after looking at the photographs of the open training session in Longford there today, and it looked great. All of the players were there. Sexton's there, Hugo Keenan, Tyke Furlong. So it's
All the
looking like
stars,
there's going to
James.
be all the stars will be in
They have
Foulkstown tomorrow.
Go ahead, Tom.
Just a full day because they come back to they're in the gym and the IT in the afternoon.
Really, are they?
Yeah.
Right.
Now it's a slow
Snake over
session in
there
the gym.
after.
You can.
All right.
But I'm sure if they could sneak out, the kids could sneak out there in the afternoon, they might get a few autographs when they're leaving on the bus.
I might go down to
You
the
didn't hear
canteen
that.
in the
You didn't
IT
hear that
tomorrow.
from me.
Going along the window.
That's it. Yeah.
Well, I have a daughter that will be. She has only 2 hours in school tomorrow. I think she might be sneaking down there to get a look at James Lowe.
Absolutely. It was a great old day, James. So if you're listening to the podcast, it's taking place on Friday the 26th in Foulkstown. That's Kilkenny Rugby Club's grounds, if you're not familiar with it, just outside the city or on the edge of it. So get down and see all the stars, plenty of stars down there as well. It'll be a great old day, James. I was at the last one that was in Carlow. I think it was 2012, Tom.
Yeah.
Brian O'Driscoll's of the world and all that there. Went down, brought the kids, and it was packed, and it's a great day. Just to see all these lads up close and going through the motions and doing their training and all that. It's great. It's great that they get out around the province as well. Lads, we'll talk about Munster as well. We'll talk about the players in and out first. We'll talk about the coaches then. So Malachi Fekatoa is in. He's a centre. Antoine Frisch, centre in as well. They're coming from Wasps and Bristol. They're after taking in a hooker as well, a 21-year-old from Exeter, Chris Moore, and Fionn Gibbons, of course, as I was talking about earlier, in from Leinster. But they've lost a lot of players. John Ryan, Kevin O'Byrne, Jason Jenkins, of course, to Leinster, Chris Clute, Rowan Osborne, who's retired. He was a former Leinster scrum half. Damien Delanda's gone as well. Sean French, Alex McHenry, Matt Gallagher, Jake Flannery, and Jonathan Wren are gone as well. And Ronan Loughlin and Declan Moore, 2 hookers actually disappeared last season. One was loaned to Ulster and the other's gone to France. So quite a lot of players again, of course, gone with Munster. A couple of good buys in there as well.
I think Munster have been carrying a lot of baggage anyway, a lot of deadwood in their squad, and I think you can see an improvement in the quality of player that's coming through the academy system in Munster. They're probably looking at those players coming in, and they're looking at the deadwood that they had and kind of said, look, it's time to ship on a lot of people. But they've recruited well. I don't know how you feel, Tom, but they've recruited well with Fikatu and Fritz, the other centre. One problem for me is that there's no tight head. There's going to be a lot of Keenan Knox. Is Keenan Knox going to win you? I don't think he is. He's not an international tight end for Munster.
I think they've done a great job and they've cleared out. I agree 110% with you. They've cleaned out a lot of deadwood out of there. I think there's a lot of good kids coming through that Munster Academy coming through, which is great. This is not just. We've always said that you have to have all the provinces to get. I know the majority of their team is coming from Leinster, but that can't continue to keep things, to keep the competition. You have to have competition there. Everything, everyone has to have someone chasing behind them, and it's not happening unless you have all the provinces. And even if it's only 1 or 2 players from each province pushing every year, it's so important that we have it. And I think there's so many kids coming through that particularly and over the last year from the Munster Academy. I think they're dead right to get rid of a lot of the players. I think they're going to be screwed. I think there's going to be screwed in the front row. I don't think they have a front row. I think it's just about strong enough when it's their actual starting front 3. After that, I think it's going to be weak, and I think they're going to be in bother. Particularly against South African teams, when we go back into Heineken Cup, I think they should have recruited a tight head. I can't for the life of me understand why they haven't got in another tight head or a utility, a good size utility prop that can play loose and tight. But they definitely should have gone for a tight head prop at this stage.
I agree totally, but I suppose the other positive side of it is the coaching ticket that everyone wanted is there You know, they have Prendergast back in, they have Dennis Leamy there, they have Ian Costello there looking after the academy. I think, you know, you might see a more positive brand of rugby from this coming season now with Prendergast in.
Well, there's no excuse now. I mean, we've all moaned about the South African influence that they had and Van Graham, and you know, it doesn't suit the Munster style of play, and you know, we haven't had any, just been kind of this horrible form of rugby that they've been trying to. They didn't have an identity, if you wanted to say it that way. There was no real identity to the way they're playing. They need an identity the way they play. They need to start falling into the system that the Irish team are playing. If watching the All Blacks and watching Super Rugby as it goes down, all the New Zealand teams, they all play a similar brand of rugby. You know, it's an open, expansive, attacking game of rugby. Whereas I don't think we actually know. I don't think Munster knew what they were playing, as in the style that they wanted, you know, to play, what suited them the best. So I mean, you have a phenomenal backroom team there for the, you know, they got who they wanted, and so there's no excuses. They have potentially, like, they've good centres. I haven't seen your man Frisch play. He's Irish qualified, so if we don't know how good or not he's good, we'll have to watch it.
Time will
tell.
tell.
Just going to have to wait and see what he's going to be like. But I think this is the first year they need to really rebuild this year. They need to get to a minimum. They need to be, and they have to get to the semi-final or the final of the UR. Have to get to at least the semi-finals of the URC, and they need to be in the semi-final. Should be hitting towards the semi-finals of the Heineken Cup.
Yeah.
You know, if you don't get it this year, but you can't. If you get into the quarterfinals, they can't be any less than quarterfinals for the Heineken Cup, and they definitely need to be in semi-final or final of the URC. Yeah. And that has to be their expectations this year.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it, though, to see how it all pans out for Munster, and of course Leinster, and that, a good few changes up in Connacht as well, and Ulster. Lads, we're running out of time, so we're going to move on to our own stuff now. And Kilkenny, you were busy.
We have been
very busy.
Yeah, Lucas.
WhatsApp was on fire there for a while.
Was it? Yeah, one of the things that we've learned from last season is that you need your squad depth, and your seconds are going to suffer every week if you don't have enough players. And we had that issue with all of the injuries in the middle portion of last season. We kind of, the club suffered, the seconds suffered, and we had to bring in players. There was no doubt about it. So Doc realistically started his recruitment for this coming season probably in around February of last year, and the players that we wanted, we got. We struggled with props. We have a few props in, but I suppose, unfortunately, if we look at who's leaving, Liam Caddy is going on around the world, or a trip of Asia with his girlfriend. They're heading off next week. So, unfortunately, we wanted Liam Caddy for a large portion of the upcoming season. And Aidan MacDonald has gone back to play with Cashel against to go back to the AIL for the season ahead. But yeah, look at some great players coming in. Probably the pick of the bunch from a local level is Brendan McSorley. Brendan played a lot with Kilkenny growing up, and then family moved up to Tyrone when he was 13. So he continued his rugby with Clogher Valley, went through the Ulster youth system, got involved then in AIL rugby with UCC, then up to Byrne Hall, where he got a massive award there a couple of seasons ago from the IRFU. Then played 2 seasons up at Banbridge. When he's back living in Kilkenny now, the family have moved back, so he's in. Damien Leahy is second row, and there's still 3 more players as well to be announced. So there's probably going to be 8 new players coming. Well, I'd say 7 new players coming in, and Jake Prattley coming back. So you know we're happy with our squad coming into the season, and we needed to be, because if we weren't, we were going to be relying on a lot of, I suppose, seconds players come up and play firsts, and which they're good at, but it's just the squad that the seconds were suffering week in, week out. So yeah, we're looking forward to it, you know, and that the ambition is a top 4 finish in the league and see how we get on in the cup.
Good stuff. What about yourselves, Tom?
But we don't have all them lads coming in, that's for sure. No, like we've great numbers. Just a carry on from last year. Similar squad. We have no addition. No, don't think there's any new additions. One from has just come out of the college. But I think there's a squad there about 50 at the moment. They're about in around about. I think we had about 42 training the other night. But they're just as I say, they're all local. We got there's a couple of young lads come up from the 18s from last year. Other than that, like there's a great buzz in the club, and it's just because the lads that are all there are the local lads, and we haven't. There's no one from. I think there's only 6 players of the 40 that are not from Carlow.
None Carlow qualified.
Yeah, there are another 6 actually. The way we worked out, there's only at the training. We had a training camp there on Saturday, and there was only 6 players that weren't born and bred in Carlow out of the whole squad. So I think we're trying to aim to hopefully stick with that as a thing going forward, that we try and produce as many as we can from youths. If we get a couple from youths every year. We don't have a whole lot of players out there that are in other clubs, so I think anyone that is, we kind of have most of those back over the last couple of years that have gone away. Anyone else is looking at they're still playing AIL, or then we can't really we try to get them back. But I mean, if you're talking a young lad in his early 20s, leaving an AIL club to come back, it's a hard ask, but we've had a good buy-in, and look, we're really happy and really positive at the moment. This is like the club is in a good position in every aspect, and from the grounds to the finances to everything. So that's a key thing that your club is to us at the moment, is to make sure that our club is strong and that we have a strong base going forward in all aspects. We have a good relationship now with Tullow, again with the girls, the Rhinos. We're back 16s are actually back training now. So if there's any parents out there, the girls, the 16s and 14s are joined again in that 3-year plan with Tullow. So we're still at 16s and 14s. Should have a strong enough 16s this year, because the 14s from last year came up, and we have a few new girls there at the 14s level. So hopefully next year we'll have 16s, 18s, 14s, 16s, and 18s, all girls. So we're really trying to push the girls rugby, which is phenomenal. Like we had training last night, and for even without the Gaelic footballers and everything else, I think we had about 18 up. So we're really, really, really positive. And look, it does. I know we've a great out rivalry, and we've gang heads, and these Tullow and ourselves are. But it's lovely to see the spirit of the club.
It's great to see girls rugby going.
Because of the girls, and that going forward. Look at the results. You have young Jane O'Brien starting 10 from Tullow, starting 10 for the Irish women's at 18 years of age is phenomenal.
Great role model as well.
Super talent out there and we have especially with the professional contracts coming into the women's rugby as well. I mean, there's plenty of scope for girls coming through. There is a real pathway now, and as I say, like we're happy enough with the lads, and we'll see how we go in the season. As a few injuries at the start, still waiting for a few lads to come back. They're out injured, but hopefully we'll give it a shot. I think we're playing Kilkenny early enough too.
I was looking at that.
You have to be nice to us, James. It's a Saturday game as well. So
I know I'm saying we recruited heavily, but we have, but some players will be there every other week, and there'll be players that will be there every week. So, it's just about managing our numbers. But
you had a hard season last year, to be honest. Like
Kilkenny
had a tough season to start. I know you finished off on a real high, and fair juice, as I said, we had that
girls.
Kenny was cracking, but
That was the best game of rugby I watched last year, the one
Yeah.
against Sheep. But the girls are going very well. I know you're in a hurry there, Steve, but our girls are going very well. Paddy has 36 girls out training on the J1 girls, but always looking for numbers. So if there is anyone else in Tullow, I know a couple of Tullow or Carlow, I know a few do come down to play adult rugby. They're more than welcome to come down and play us, even though I know Tullow have their adult team. But we're all looking forward to the season down here as well and see what happens. Like Ian and Carlow, Tom, we're in a strong position as a club, both on and off the pitch. And I think there's an awful lot of work goes in by an awful lot of people that other people don't see to make it happen. And that's all you can do is you take your hat off the people that have worked very hard in the three clubs over the last 10, 20 years to get all of the three local clubs in the strong position that they're all in.
Absolutely.
We had three strong clubs.
That's it. In a short proximity, we're all only 20 miles from each other,
Yeah.
We'll get an update next week when Johnny Tobin is back on the ins and outs, I suppose, of Tullow Rugby. Lads, we're going to have to wrap it up there. Head off. Do a few bits and pieces. Great chatting to you again. The start of season 2 of the Knock On. Plenty of rugby to look forward to as well. Tom Crotty from Carlow Rugby Club, James Blanchfield from Kilkenny Rugby Club. Chat to you next week.
Good luck.